Okay, good evening everyone. Napakasaya ng time na to. Ah, hindi lang kayo, good evening, Teacher Mercy, Sis Andy, Tiani. Si Hazel ay nandito rin, mga isa't kalahating metro yung layo para mapag-usapan yung ating topic. Ngayon, we departed last meeting sa Pentateuch sa lead ng Pastor Jonathan. Napag-aralan natin doon yung 5 books of Moses na dala. And then today, we will be talking about OT history. At when we say OT history ay napakalaking coverage nito. If we could say that narrative comprises, no, yung, if I'm not mistaken, 1/3 ng buong Bible ay narrative, which means very helpful. Sayang nga lang kasi hindi tayo maka-focus sa no, yung what we call interpreting Old Testament narratives kasi that will be another separate lesson altogether. But now, we'll be talking about OT history, and my prayer is makakontribute or madagdagan ang inyo pong nalalaman tungkol po sa pag-aaral na to. And this is recorded since we will upload this, no, for a general audience or a wider audience para mapanood din ng iba if they are interested to talk about this. Now, when we say 4 divisions of the Old Testament, diba? How do we divide, no, itong sections na to? Sa Hebrew understanding, ano lang 'yon, that Tanakh, TNK, Tanakh, which is a abbreviated form for the Torah, the Nebi'im, and the Ketubim. Yung Nebi'im, the Torah is the 5 books of Moses. Nebi'im, from the Hebrew word Navi or prophet, covers pati yung mga historical writings. And Ketuvim, from the verb kitab is to write. Kaya writings yung ganun yung understand. So it's the Torah, the law, the prophets, and then the what we call Ketubim or the writings. Pero sa divisions ng Old Testament as we know it, ay ito yung yung 4 na divisions na to. Nakita ko si Kuya Jan ay nagno-notes din na magandang gabi. I-send ko rin sa inyo itong PowerPoint na ito para mapakinabangan at who knows, baka kayo naman ang magturo one day, no? So i-distribute natin ito. And again, we will be talking about the second part, no, which is yung historical books. But due to the lack of time and opportunities, ay madidiscuss lang natin for this meeting today ay ang 1st and 2nd Samuel, and then 1st and 2nd Kings naman next Sunday. At magpapaliwanag ako sa inyo bakit. Kasi nga, when we were planning this, kami ng Pastor Jonathan, nakita ko ang hirap, no, talakayin ng Joshua to Esther in one session. To be very precise, 2 oras lang ito di-discuss, no? So paano natin madi-discuss 'yon? Now, Joshua to Esther is really a large enterprise. Kaya naman po, tingnan niyo yung historical books, no, what we have here from the book of Joshua hanggang sa makarating sa exilic era during the time of Esther, or we could say including yung post-exilic writings kagaya ng Ezra, Nehemiah at saka 1st and 2nd Chronicles. Kung makita nyo pa lang, yung coverage pa lang is too immense. At ang bagay na inaalala ko is baka yung malalaman natin about the Old Testament history is parang bits and pieces lang, to the point na hindi ko sinasabing ganito talaga mangyari, pero to the point na baka hindi hindi na ma-appreciate ng listener, no? Kung itatalakay natin itong 12 books na ito at look at the number, no? So anyway, I don't wanna focus too much on numerology for now. Ito nahiram ko from David Murray, no? 5 reasons to study Old Testament history. You could see kung i-ano niya to ay kung sa ano to, Ligonier Ministries, no? So 5 reasons kasi bakit natin pag-aaralan ng OT history. The first is that yung history na nakikita natin is may katotohanan nito, may actuality of these events na mga naganap. Maraming panahon na ang nakalipas. For example, yung encircling, no, ng mga Israelites sa time ni Joshua. What we call the fall of the walls of Jericho. Ito ay ano, no, some people were raising doubts over this event, no, pero through the eyes of faith, naniniwala tayo that it is through the divine intervention, no, and the faith of the Israelites, kaya bumagsak po yung ano, no, walls of Jericho during this time. So what we're reading is may mga ano to, no, actual events ito as written by the witnesses of the biblical writers. Dahil nga real talk, wala na yung mga authors, no. We do not have the authors right now. So what we have is that the Bible is our witness, no. Yung Bible ang nakasaksi sa mga, or sabihin natin yung Bible ay nagpapatotoo dun sa mga naganap in the past ng pagluwalhati, no? Pagluwalhati ng Diyos sa ano, no, sa harapan ng kanyang mga nilikha. And ito, no, siguro natataka kayo, OT history is selective history. What does this mean? When we say selective history, merong mga nire-raise na events yung mga biblical writers, but obviously they could not tell everything, no? At dahil nga selective, they just have to choose yung mga elements within the story na nakikita nila na nagre-reveal about God, no? About God's work and about yung responses ng mga tao, how they responded to God's revelation through sa mga events. So again, kaya yung at minsan what we call yung movement in time, no, ng istorya na pag nag-move ng ganyan ay 1 or 2 verses lang pero 40 years na pala yung lumipas, no? Just like what we recall sa Book of Exodus nung si Moses ay lumabas from Israel, no? And then later on na nagkaharap sila sa presence ng ni Yahweh doon sa burning bush, and then later nandun na siya, balik na siya sa Egypt. Ilang verses lang yung binasa mo pero comprising of ano, no, more or less 40 years, no? So again, ang dami doon sa mga naganap sa istorya ni Moses na hindi nakasulat doon sa 40 verses. So siguro enough na tayo doon sa what we call how do we understand selective history. Siguro isa pang bagay about the second point is yung ano, no, yung na yung during the early times ang narration or narrative reporting ang paraan nila ng pagtuturo sa next generation, no? So ginagamit nila yung they are telling oral stories, no? So dito sa oral stories na to, because it is selective, merong gustong tema o kaya aral na gustong ibaba nitong storytellers na ito. Kaya again, hindi lahat ay nakikita nating lumilitaw, no, when we talk about selective history. And of course, third, we are looking at it from what we call relevant history. Relevant siya kasi may mga ideas dito na nagpe-preserve, no, ng details and ng what we call ancient culture, no, ng Israel, na kung hindi ito naisulat, no, it is in danger of being lost, lost in time. Kaya marami sa mga bagay na to na napapalitaw at what we call relevant history, and sometimes itong mga relevant histories na to gives explanations to what's going ahead, no, do sa mga pangyayari, whether in the post-exilic era or what we call during the time of the prophets. I-define ko lang yung post-exilic era, no, kasi baka jargon ito. Post-exilic is ang Israel within the Old Testament history ay dumaan siya sa what we call three stages. Yung pre-exilic, yung panahon na kung saan ang Israel ay hindi pa na-exile, no, pre-exilic. Hindi pa sila natatalo ng mga foreign powers. And then exilic, kung saan merong portion ng history ng Israel na sila ay natalo. So they were under the rule of foreign kings, no? At maalala natin yan, for example, si Daniel, he served, no, under the courts of the Babylons and then the Persians, no? And then of course there is also yung post-exilic, na kung saan there was a period in the history of Israel or the Jews na kung saan ay binigyan sila ng freedom or limited freedom sa era ng mga Persians at meron nakauwi at nabigyan ng opportunity yung post-exilic community na i-revive yung ang kanilang pagsamba, the temple, and marami pang mga sabihin natin ideas to keep their identity intact, no, given that they were defeated and they were scattered in many places within the ancient Near Eastern empires. At dahil dun sa kanilang pagkatalo na yon, they really need to recover yung mga bagay na nawala sa kanila. At yun yung tinatawag na post-exilic community. At yan, nandiyan si Ezra, si Nehemiah to give some examples. And there were also the prophets, sila Haggai, sila Zechariah, and hanggang sa makarating kay Malakay. Yung purposeful siguro related na siya sa relevance, no? Na nakikita natin na itong mga biblical authors na to, hindi lang sila nagkukuwento, no? Nagpapakita sila ng mga magagandang layunin na nagaganap sa kasaysayan nila. At tayo as what we call the New Testament people or the people na na nagbabasa ng kanilang kasaysayan, makita natin dito kung paano sila kinakaharap ng Diyos, no? At itong pagharap sa kanila ng Diyos, hindi lang ito puro blessing. Kasi kaloob dito sa storya ng kasaysayan ng Israel, marami dito ay judgment, no, or what we call yung pagpaparusa ng Diyos dahil sa pagiging hindi tapat, no, or unfaithfulness ng mga Israelites, no. And then the fifth is also meaningful kasi what we call here is Old Testament history looks to what we call redemptive or salvation history, no, na kahit na Genesis chapter 3, the results of the fall is the banishment of Adam and Eve, at yung mga curses that came upon them, yung kamatayan, si Cain pinatay si Abel, no? At later on makita natin yung paglaganap ng kasamaan, no? Naroon pa rin yung magandang plano ng Diyos, no? Is to recover, no, to recover what was lost. At ang kasagutan ng Diyos dito sa Genesis, at naituro na minsan ng Pastor Jonathan, is yung pagkatawag ng Lord kay Abraham, no? Relevant yung covenant ng Lord kay Abraham kasi yung realization ng what we call covenant with the Lord na promise of progeny, yung magkakaroon ng anak, hindi lang anak nation talaga, ng kagaya ng kasing dami daw ng mga bituin sa langit o ng mga buhangin sa no, sa dagat, no, sa pampang. So these are hyperboles, no, to show na hindi mabilang yung magiging no ng mga children ni Abraham, given na si Abraham at saka si Sarah at the receipt of the promise was masyado na silang matanda, no, para manganak, no. At kaya naman ang isa pang pangako dito ay lupa, no, lupa, na kung saan sa naiwang lesson ng ating Pastor Jonathan sa Exodus leading to Deuteronomy is yung pagki-claim ng ng Israelites ng promised land, no? Which again was was sabihin natin fully manifested, no, during the reign ni King David, na kung saan ay meron ng na build ni David yung yung borders, no, borders ng Israel na ayon doon sa ipinangako ng Diyos kay Abraham na mapag-uusapan natin mamaya. So, mga konting pagtatanggol lamang, no, bakit Samuel and Kings lang ang mapag-aaralan natin. Kasi yung Samuel and Kings ay already mahaba na ito. Mga mahabang libro na ito, no? Na kung saan dito pa lamang pag-aaralan natin, mapapagod na tayo. No, mapapagod na tayo at gusto ko lamang naman meron talaga tayong take home, no, habang tayo ay nag-aaral ng First at saka Second Kings. Merong no, yung I know ang wider intention natin is to really understand Old Testament history. But FYI, I was siguro after I graduated ng aking MDiv sa Asian Theological Seminary, naituro ko I was given an opportunity sa Emmanuel Theological Seminary to teach Old Testament history as a class, okay? So isang lesson po tong OT history na ito na umabot yata ng 13 sessions na tigta 3 oras, no? Tigta 3 oras. So doon pa lamang, wow, no, ang laki at ang daming pwede talagang pag-usapan about the history of ancient Israel. Pero again, yung for this segment, we will be talking about First and Second Samuel. Reflected rito, no, at the back of it are two important personalities, no? Si King Saul and then si King David, no? Kasi yung kingship ni David ay na-realize doon sa Second Samuel, no? Kaya originally makita natin in the Hebrew literature, they were initially just one book, no? Isang book na tuloy-tuloy, no? But for the sake of showing the distinction between the rule of King Saul, which ended do sa last chapters ng First Samuel, at yun naman, and then to show a transition. Looking forward, yun naman First Kings, no? Yung First Kings, the beginning of the First Kings, ay ayun naman yung reign ni Solomon, no? So we will be talking about that next week. So in the Septuagint, or it's a Septuagint is a Latin form of the word of the number 70. 70. It is a jargon to meet Greek Old Testament, no? So yung Old Testament na isulat sa Grego. And then the books of Samuel and Kings were compiled as one for Basileon, from the idea of kings, no, plural form. And then yung Latin niya is 1, 2, 4 regium or kings, no, sa kanila. Siguro lang, no, clarification, 1, 2 Samuel at saka 1 and 2 Basileon. So familiar tayo dito. I want us to have pre-understanding of the Abrahamic Covenant. So makita natin how the Abrahamic Covenant is partially or sabihin natin generally fulfilled sa sa reign ni King David, no. Then the Lord said to him, referring to Abraham, "Know for certain that for 400 years your descendants will strangers in the country, not their own." At alam natin yan, it's about the book of Exodus. "But I will punish the nation, they serve as slaves, and after that they will come out with great possessions. You will go to your ancestors in peace," referring to Abraham, no, "and will be buried at a good old age. In the fourth generation your descendants will come back for the sin of the Amorites has not yet reached its full measure. And then when the sun had set and darkness had fallen, smoking fire pot, with a blazing torch appeared and passed between the two pieces, and that day, the Lord made a covenant with Abraham and said, so ito yung what we call territorial, no? Territorial boundaries of or parang territorial boundaries is is repetitive, no? Yung boundaries na ibinigay no, to your descendants, I give this land from the Wadi of Egypt to the great river, the Euphrates, land of the Kenites, Kenizzites, Cadmonites, Hittites, Perizzites, Rephaites, Amorites, Canaanites, Girgashites, and Jebusites. It means napakalaking territory, no, yung talagang pinamis. Intro pa lang po yun. Intro pa lang. Program ng study natin, nasabi ko po kanina, we will be talking about Samuel and Kings. So for today, or this evening rather, matatalakay lang natin itong may typographical first and Samuel, no? Sa pagmamadali po ng inyong lingkod, no? Lagay nyo na lang ng 2. So the kingship of Saul and then the kingship of David. Note po dito. When I taught this many years ago, yung kingship of Saul po is one lesson of 3 hours, no? We were just talking about Saul and then another for David. At yung pong kay Solomon, that's another lesson, divided monarchy another. So what you're looking at here is 6 sessions, no? Na talagang pinipit-pit natin, pinagkakasya natin for today 2 hours and another 2 hours, so that's 4. But you look at it 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. That's supposed to be 18 hours of regular study. Pero again, we thank God for the blessings of yung technology na nagagamit natin para tayo ay nakaka-reach out. But again, nakikita niyo kung ang dami talagang for sure mabibitin kayo, no, doon sa lesson. Ang dami talaga nating hindi mako-cover given that we already set aside, no? We already set aside yung sa Joshua, story sa Joshua, the Judges, and then even yung yung post-exilic writings. But beneficial ang ating study kasi First and Second Chronicles naman is reflective of the history writing of the kings, pero during the post-exilic era. So nagbibigay na po ako sa inyo ng pang-Bible quiz, no, yung pinagkaiba ng First and Second Kings at saka First and Second Chronicles, because the First and Second Chronicles were written sa post-exilic era. No. So yung sa next Sunday, no, exciting ito, no, yung sa kingship na Solomon at saka yung ngayon divided monarchy and then the fall of the northern and the southern kingdom. Dahil teacher po ako, may mga ganitong may mga ganitong slide. Key learning objectives, no? At the end of the lessons, the students will cognitive, know more about the ancient kingdom of Israel. So about knowledge, kanyan. Beginnings of the kingdom and then the end of the kingdom sa end ng Second Kings. And then emotional, you will be moved by the success and then failures of kings. So yung move na to kasi roller coaster ng emotions to eh. Meron times na matutuwa tayo, papalakpakan natin si David, pero makikita rin natin yung failures nila, no? At in a way, papunta siya doon sa third lesson, be able to apply important principles of leadership in the church. So again, kaya naglalagay na tayo ng ng expected measures na applicable natin sa sa atin sa ating sa churches natin today. So this is First and Second Samuel, no, ladies and gentlemen, and we will be for this first segment we will be talking about King Saul. So the background of the book, no, mga bibilisan ko lang, no, kasi ang gusto natin talaga makita dito yung buhay at saka yung pag-aari, no, ni King Saul, no, na inadapt na pangalan din, no, ni Apostle Paul before his conversion. Okay? So, ano yung mga purpose ng ano no ng first at tsaka second Samuel? He serves, referring to the prophet Samuel, therefore to connect the period of the judges with the early monarchy. Anong significance nito? No, kasi when the Israelites entered the land sa time ni Joshua, they were what we call a tribal confederacy. There were 12 tribes. Yung tribe of Levi was a ministering tribe. So yung tribe ni Joseph nahati doon sa kanyang dalawang anak, si Ephraim at saka si Manasseh, na kung saan ay kanya-kanya yung territories ng ano no, itong 12 tribes na ito. But they were operating as a tribe, so they were not operating as a monarchy, which makikita natin yung difference sa Book of Judges. Ang pag-atake ng mga ang tawag mo dito non-Israelite tribes ay inaatake rin nila tribe against tribe. Tribe against tribe. At minsan na lang yung isang tribe na to ay hingi ng tulong sa isang katabing tribe o isang alay na tribe para tulungan sila dun sa kanilang pakikipaglaban. So si Samuel was considered as a judge, no, not necessarily as a king, but rather a judge having territorial influence, no, na within a limited period. But he is also considered as a prophet priest, no, judge priest, following doon sa tradition ni Eli na makikita natin sa beginning ng storya na si Eli ay isang priest din, no. So, ano no, the Israelites came to see their need of a centralized government dahil dun sa mga conflicts na kinakaharap ng ano ng uh, 12 tribes na ito. In the second place, the king must be a good king, not a selfish autocrat, but a man who was after God's heart, no. Isang very rare no na attribute na pakita sa tao, no, kasi even yung man after God's heart, no, in his later life na mapag-uusapan natin at the end of our lesson today, no, sa when we will be focusing on the life of David, no, ay ano pa rin, it's still hindi pa rin enough yung ano no yung perfection, no, na kasi hindi nga yung lack of perfection na meron itong ano no mga human kings, no. So this is a map, no, of the different the map of Israel during the yung what we call the tribal confederacy. So ano talaga sila, no, they were again operating as tribes. So not necessarily they were hindi pa talaga sila under the rule of a king. Pero makikita natin how they were like yung original organization of the 12 tribes is you look to your own tribe, no? You look to your own tribe. So this is a quick outline of the book of First Samuel, no? Yung first part is the rise of the prophet Samuel and his reign as judge 1 to 8. And then the Saul's rise to power and then the beginning of the kingdom. At another part is yung pagbaba naman ng rule ni Saul in preparation naman do sa do sa rule ni David. These are some significant events in First Samuel para magkaroon tayo ng yung zoom out na understanding na ng book na ito. Sa first at saka second chapter, yung prayer ni Hannah, yung conversation nila with the priest Eli, at yung pagtugon naman ng Diyos kay Hannah, giving him yung child niya, first child niya na si Samuel, kasi sabi doon sa storya pagkatapos noon nagkaroon pa si Elkanah at si Hannah ng iba pang children, ano. And then Samuel's call and beginning as a prophet sa chapter 3. However, part of it yung malungkot na istorya ng pagkatalo ng Israel, no, at yung kay pagkamatay ni ni Eli. And then later on, Israel's request for a king and Samuel's warning. Matatalakay din natin to sa 1 Samuel chapter 8 later on. Isang reason nito kasi yung mga Israelites ayaw dun sa mga anak ni Samuel, no? Ayaw nila. Kaya humingi sila ng hari, no? And then Saul, King Saul was anointed and then coronation and then yung unang pagkakamali ni Saul and then nagkaroon pa ng later on ng failure at yung punishing sa si Amalek at in preparation pag-reject kay or what we call double rejection kay Saul became the foundation ng pag-anoint naman kay David as king sa chapter 16. And then another event yung kay David and Goliath, and then yung mahabang section na kung saan ay tinutugis ni Saul si David hanggang sa yung pagkamatay niya at ng kanyang mga anak. So a bit talking about kingship, no? Kasi ang kingship, if you look closely doon sa 1 Samuel sa chapter 8, meron ng mga existing kingdoms around Israel. At siguro pwede natin i-highlight, lumabas ang Israel sa isang kingdom which is yung Egyptian kingdom under the Pharaoh, no? So kings of the great nations such as Assyria, Babylon, Egypt, and the Hittite Empire often identify themselves with the forces of nature such as the storm god or the sun god. At para nga sa 12 tribes na ito, gusto nilang matulad, no? Sa mga foreign kingdoms, no? Nagayahin nila, i-adapt nila yung form of government na meron ang mga foreign nations na to. So the kings of nations who were subject to this great empire saw themselves as servants of a local god who specially cared for their little area. Bakit ito important? Kasi at the back of course, not only tradition but also superstition, na ang paniwala nila yung tagumpay ng hari ay merong religious connotation na nagtatagumpay yung hari ng kalabang bansa doon sa hari ng Israel. No? Pwede natin makita ganoon. Kings generally had full control over military defense, settled judicial appeals, function as the chief priest in important festivals. No? Pero hindi lahat ng arrangements ay kagaya nito. They control the major economic decisions such as taxation, civic building projects. At pagdating natin next week, yung kay Solomon, yung malaking, hindi lang kasi yung temple, yung building projects, napakaraki, napakagastos, no? Na siguro parang yung, hindi, ayoko naman i-compare doon sa mga projects doon sa Bamban, at saka sa Porac, no? Hindi, mga to. The king symbolized the presence of the God in the land and played out certain roles of the divinity for the people. Kaya ganoon na lang yung sense of fear of the king at saka yung mga religious color na meron doon sa sa hari, no? Na kailangan nilang sumunod doon sa king kasi he is appointed by the divine, no? Itself, no? To the point, for example, sa Egypt, yung Pharaoh was considered as divine. At there was a time si diba to? Si Caesar, no? Si Caesar, yung first Caesar sa no? Na tinalo niya yung no, yung si was that yung babaeng yung babaeng queen ng no, ng Egypt, no, natalo niya, no? Ay si Caesar ay pinroclaim as no, king din, ano, or God, no? God dito sa Egypt, no? Si Cleopatra, yon kanina iniisip ko si Cleopatra. Nung natalo ni Caesar si Cleopatra, ay si Caesar was honored as ano, no, king din, as God in Egypt, no? While others, ang tingin nila sa sarili nila, they were the custodians, no, ng ano, no, ng king. So taga-ano sila. Sila yung itinalaga ng kanilang mga Diyos-Diyosan para pangalagaan yung ano, no, yung kaharian. So papunta na tayo kay Saul, no? Monarchy in Israel. Ancient Israel entered their period of monarchy in about 1020 BC, no? Within 2 generations, the components of a loose tribal organization were welded into a strong unified state. No, yung mga 12 tribes na to ay nagkaisa as one. The impressive accomplishments of the three kings, si Saul, si David, and si Solomon, have led some interpreters to refer to this era as Israel's golden age. Nandiyan naman yung mga years, no? So from 1020. At notice yung ano, no, yung significance of numbers, no? Kasi yung 1,000, no, or circa 1,000 ay sa those who favor the dispensational point of view is 1,000, and then pagdating ng zero sa what we call sa time ni yung sa manifestation ni Jesus, and then another for 1,000 which is 1,000 AD sa what we call sa medieval period, and then sa atin sa 2,000, no? So if you are fond of ano, no, yung numbers, no? So when we read first at saka second Samuel, makikita natin that there are bits and pieces that talk about in favor or against the monarchy. So kagaya niyan, there is a tradition that supports the monarchy. In the former, the institution of monarchy is depicted as Yahweh's answer to the Philistine threat, no? Samuel is a visionary figure of only local stature, and then the monarchy comes into being at Gilgal. And another, ito naman yung opposed, no? In the latter, the people's obsession to imitate the other nations by designating a king is condemned, no, as faithless, kasi faithless and rebellious, kasi ang in the words of Samuel, sinasabi that the people rejected Yahweh as their king, no? Na initially within the tribal organization, si Yahweh dapat kinikilala nila as king, pero now yung human figure ang kinikilala nila, no? At ayun, merong mga warning na nakapaloob doon. Ito yun, no, 1 Samuel 8. Bibilisan ko na lamang, no, kasi yung time ko with regards dun sa kay King Saul, no? Makikita natin dito na yung pag naghari daw itong hari na to, kukunin daw ni King yung kanilang mga anak at saka anak na lalaki at babae, sila yung maglilingkod sa kanyang mga labanan, di ba? Some he will assign to be commanders of thousands. So this is from the 12 tribes, no? Lahat sila ay damay-damay dito. And he will take your daughters to be perfumers and cooks and bakers. He will take the best of the fields and vineyards and olive groves. So masisira na dito yung territorial boundaries na nakita natin earlier, kasi aangkinin ito ng hari lahat ng ito ayon do sa kanyang kagustuhan, no? So meron na nabibuild na dito yung what we call nobles and then slaves, or sabihin natin siguro slave, kasi napasok ka sa military by napilitan ka to ano no, to labag sa kalooban mo, no, pero kailangan mo sumama sa labanan, no? At tingnan niyo yung verse 18. When the day comes, you will cry out for relief from the king you have chosen, but the Lord will not answer you in that day, no? Na there will come a time na yung hari na namumuno sa kanila ay hindi na nila magustuhan, no? At napipilitan na lang silang sumunod, and they will cry out kay Yahweh At naalala natin yung cry out na yun nangyari na sa beginning chapters ng Book of Exodus, no, they were crying out to God. Pero sabi dito sa verse 18, hindi natutugon ang Diyos. So medyo nakakatakot yung dating, ano. So the Philistines, no. Ano ba yung role ng Philistines sa pag-establish ng kingdom, no, ng Israel? So 1022 the BC, the Hebrews had settled in Canaan and built their villages and towns. They lived in simple, mainly agricultural life, grazing their flocks in the fertile valley of Jordan and harvesting sufficient crops for their own needs. Itong ganitong uri ng pamumuhay was disrupted by the coming of the Philistines, no? This enemy, the Philistines, had come down from the north, crossed the sea, and followed the coastline southwards. So these invaders were tall, blond men, so possibly mga Europeans ito, no? Possibly mga Europeans who were dedicated to war. Nobody knows where they came from. At imagine nyo yung 12 tribes na itong 12 tribes na to, they were operating on their own. Bigla sila nakaharap ng isang united na ano, no, isang kalaban na very united, no, para talunin at sakupin sila, no. The extreme seriousness of the political situation, parang bang nung una sabi nila, kasama natin si Yahweh, kaya nating talunin yung mga yan. Pero marami tayong pwedeng masabi about the Philistines. Kinuha nila yung western portions ng land of Israel or what we call Canaan. At geographically speaking, nandito yung mga minahan ng bakal, no? At ang bakal ay napaka-importante siya sa digmaan, no? No? Yung bakal. Kung sa agriculture ginagamit siya sa ano, no, pang-araro, 'di ba? Pang-araro, kailangan ng mga sabihin natin yung mga kagamitan na ginagamit niya sa pagtatanim. Ang minahan ng mga bakal na nakuha ng territory nitong mga Philistines na to ay syempre nagagamit nila for warfare. Medyo nalugi ang Israel, no, sa case na to, na kung saan nasakop ng mga Philistines yung mga lugar na kung saan maraming sources ng ano, maraming resources ng bakal. At sabi nga dito sa 1 Samuel 4, natalo ang Israel at namatay si Eli, si Hophni at saka si Pinehas, at naagaw ng mga Philistines na ito yung Ark of the Covenant. So makita natin dito pa lamang sa story na to na very serious, no, yung problem ng Israel with regards to sa Philistine-Israel relationship. At dito naisip ng Israel na ano ba ang solution nito, kaya tumawag sila kay Prophet Samuel na labanan nila, ano, nation against nation, no? Hindi lang yung mga ano, no, yung separate tribes na ito. So the small uncoordinated state of Israel could hold few terrors for these warriors with their intensive armory and long battle experience, no? Lugi sila kasi ang mga Philistines ay ano talaga, no, kahit sa time ni Samson sa Book of Judges, makita natin na ano talaga sila, no, nakakatakot talaga silang labanan, no, kung sa ano, no, kung harapan. At very trained sila, so very strategic yung kalalagayan ng mga Philistines when it comes to ano, no, to war, no. So before the Israelites had time to plan a strategy, the full army of the Philistines was confronting them on their own ground. Now we go over to Saul, no? King Saul, chosen as king. Si King Saul, sa ancient tradition, yung sabihin natin yung nakapagbigay ng malaking attention sa kanya, yung pagkawagi niya sa ano, no, sa Ammonites, no, led to his being chosen king. Israelite territory in Transjordan was coveted by Nahash and his Ammonite men, who lay siege to the city of Jabesh Gilead. Having received Yahweh's spirit, sabi, yung spirit of the Lord came kay Saul, no? 11:6. Saul set to work at once, at we could say that the victory of Saul was because of the presence of the spirit sa kanya. They assembled as one man at natalo nila yung Ammonites dito sa digmaan na to. And of course, dito natanyag no yung skill nito ni ano no ni Haring Saul at sa Gilgal siya ay kinilala bilang hari. Samuel anointed Saul and thereby conferred a special status on this inspired courageous Benjamite. A man of seemingly limitless valor, Saul had the honor of being first king. Nevertheless, the edited books of Samuel convey a more sympathetic portrayal of David than they of Saul. Yes, si King Saul was the first king of Israel. That's a fact. Pero hindi ano yun, medyo yung authors or we could also say the mga storytellers were half-hearted no, when they were talking about King Saul. So this was no easy time to be king. Saul had little in the way of standing army. Yet his rule seems to have been devoted to the cause of war. So isang description dito, parang bang sa kaharian ni King Saul, kaliwat kanan yung digmaan niya, no? Hari nga siya, pero parang naubos yung time and strength and resources niya sa pakikipaglaban. At sabi dito, Saul never enjoyed the full support of his people. In fact, they were not shy about voicing their pag-criticize, no? Pag-criticize kay King Saul. Not did he really succeed with the religious elements in Israel. Although, he was a demonstrated religious person. At ayun nga, madali kasing condemn si madali natin i-condemn si King Saul from our vantage point today. Pero during this time, nalilito rin siya no, with regards to sa rule, sa task niya as king. Kaya minsan tumatawid siya sa religious functions na hindi na tuloy nararapat. No? The statement that there was hard fighting against the Philistines all days may be taken at face value. This charismatic warrior who had triumphed over the Ammonites was no less successful in combat against the Philistines. So ito nga, yung problem nila with the Philistine threat no, ay naging mahirap para sa kanya. Sa kanya kay King Saul at saka kay Jonathan na anak niya, panganay na anak niya ni Haring Saul. Although he was an effectively militant monarch, Saul made no attempt to subvert tribal loyalties. Siguro pwede ko nang skip to. No? Yung failure ni Saul, no? Credit na lang doon sa mga sa owners doon sa sa mga pictures na meron dito sa ating slides today. The severe tension between Saul and Samuel was first installed him in his kingly office, no? Nagkaroon sila ng problema. Maganda ang start ni Saul, inanoint siya ni Prophet Samuel, pero later on, nagkaroon siya ng series of disobedience, no? He was yun nga, Saul prepares to fight against the Philistines at Michmash. This is a holy war, and Saul is expected to wait for Samuel to arrive. Eh nainip si King Saul. Si Samuel na yung si Saul na yung nagandog. And then dumating si Samuel. At kinondemn niya yung ginawa ni sa technical term, what we call is usurpation of authority, na isang kapangyarihan na dapat ay ginagawa ng pare, ginawa ni King Saul. Another instance yung yung hindi niya pagpatay kay King Amalek, yung king ng kay Agag, no? Hari ng Amalek. Na kung saan within the holy war, no? Ay kailangan yung command na ubusin hindi ang gusto kasi ni Saul seemingly iparada niya si King Agag na natalo ko si King Agag. At sinama niya yung sinasabing the best of Amalekite livestock. Pero Ang view dito ni Prophet Samuel, si King Saul committed rebellion, no? At hindi natuwa si Prophet and Judge Samuel do sa ginagawa ni Saul. Pagdating ng Samuel 28, Saul experiences in Samuel's presence the shattering withdrawal of prophetic support. Namatay si Samuel at humingi siya ng tulong, no? At ang ginawa niyang pagtulong ay paghingi ng tulong, lumapit si King Saul sa isang manghuhula na ipinagbabawal ng Diyos, no? And again, pinatawag niya yung espiritu ni ano, no, or siguro mas magandang term, espiritista. Tinawag ni Haring Saul yung espiritu ni Samuel. Pero nung lumitaw yung espiritu ni Samuel, kahit na patay na si Samuel, nire-reject pa rin siya. Nire-reject pa rin ng espiritu ni Samuel si Haring Saul. At yung rejection kay Saul, of course, when we think of political affairs, syempre kailangan merong itayo na kapalit. Na parang bumbilya yan eh. Pag hindi na gumagana yung bumbilya mo, kailangan may kapalit ka. At hindi mo ipapalit doon ay upuan. Ang ipapalit mo bumbilya din, ano? So Samuel is now divinely dispatched to Bethlehem at inanoint niya si David na bunso sa mga anak ni Jesse. Once anointed in the context of a private ceremony, the Spirit of Yahweh came mightily upon David at kabila nito naman, meron namang rejecting spirit naman kay Saul. Isang evil spirit naman sa kanya. Many things appear to be going for David. He was physically attractive, he was a skilled musician. Yung speech niya ay nagpapakita ng wisdom. He enjoyed the support of Yahweh's presence. He also benefited from yung si Jonathan na naging kaibigan niya at laging nagtatanggol sa kanya kay David. The women sang about David's victories nung natalo ni David si Goliath at kinainggitan ito ni Haring Saul. At dahil dito sa inggit na to, no, gusto niyang tanggalin si David. Pero paulit-ulit na tinry niya ng lalong nakikita yung galing, no? Yung galing ni David, kaya gusto tuloy ni Haring Saul na ipapatay si David. In the last dozen chapter of 1 Samuel, the paranoid Saul fervently directs his attention to chasing David over miles of Judean desert. This led to Saul's ultimate undoing. The Philistines had undoubtedly benefited from Saul's intense concentration on David. Dahil nga si King Saul wala na siyang ginawa kung hindi habulin tugisin si David, edi lumakas tuloy lalo yung power ng Philistines. At nagkaroon ng isang battle sa Mount Gilboa at namatay dito si Saul at ang kanyang 3 anak kasama si Jonathan. So assessment sa atin sa paghahari ni Haring Saul. No? Both positive and negative forces were at work during Saul's reign. His public life began on a promising note. His physical well-being, personal initiative, and courage must have won the respect of many. Popular demand as well as prophetic designation that thrust him into kingship. Again, no, akala nga ng mga tao si Saul ay naging isa sa mga propeta, no, kasi bumaba yung espiritu ng Diyos sa kanya, no? Saul suffered as much personally as he did from the historical situation. His feelings of rejection, his constant exposure to prophetic rebuke, and his consuming envy of David all made for a wretched existence. Yet at the very least, Saul should be remembered as an unsung hero of Israelite history kasi kahit na negative ang portrayal ng storytellers kay Haring Saul, naniniwala ako meron pa rin siyang good side na na masyado lang natabunan ng ng pagbibigay ng spotlight kay David bilang kanyang kapalit. Okay, so time for processing. Hello. Time for processing na muna tayo. Ano yung mga masasabi ninyo kay King Saul? 'Di ba? Dito sa First Samuel, yung pagpapakilala niya sa kanya sa book na ito. Okay, i-rephrase ko in another way. Ano yung mga insights na naisip niyo tungkol kay King Saul na pwede ninyong i-share po sa atin sa ating group?